Dimp Digital presents Idle Game Chat.
Cool.
Hello, apps here from Dimp Digital, and welcome to Idle Game Chat bonus stage. It's time for our Fantasy Gaming League draft of 2023. I'm just here to give you a quick refresher of the rules and the competitions that we'll be playing here at Dimp Digital, and then we'll get straight into the draft with Logan and Parky. As many of you will know, Dimp Digital's Fantasy Gaming League is a long-running tradition here at Dimp Digital. And the name of the game is for competitors to build a roster of 10 video games that they think will score well with the critics. The score for each game is taken from opencritic.com, and you can find how details of those scores are calculated by the site directly on OpenCritic's site. Now, we have two competitions running here at Dimp Digital that will test their skills and their wills. First off, we have the Grand Prix. Now, the Grand Prix is what I call the proving ground to the Fantasy Gaming League. 6 participants go head-to-head. They need to create a list of 10 unique games each. So at the end of the draft, there should be, providing everyone's provided enough games, 60 unique games. And the winner will be the one that at the end of the season that has the highest score. And then we have the main event, the championship. In order to contest for the championship showdown, you need to be the reigning champion, like Parky is, or win the Grand Prix, which is what Logan did in 2022. So we've got Logan versus Parky for 2023. Same rules apply. They need to build a team of 10 games, but with a little bit of a twist. Half of their games, well actually 6 of their games, are going to be made up of picks from the Grand Prix teams. So in an instance, Parky will decide 4 of his games. The other 6 are going to come from the people he chooses to enter his team. Now, they have no idea, or they should have no idea, what games are on each individual's list. So when we go through the draft a bit later on, it will be a live reaction and finding out what games each individual gives them. And there's a draft in itself, isn't it, that you're picking the right people, hoping that they've picked the right games for you. So there's a little bit of fun to be had there. Anyway, that's all I'm going to do for an intro. I think it's just prudent to get straight in to the draft itself. And I'll see you all on the other side. Here we are then, back with the Fantasy Gaming League 2023 draft. I'm joined by the 2 competitors for this season who are going to be duking it out for the Fantasy Gaming League Championship. Introducing the reigning champion first, the 2022 champion and the 2021 Grand Prix winner, it's Parky. How's it going?
Yeah, not bad, thanks, Apps. How are you?
All good, all good. And also, no longer the nearly man, the 2022 Grand Prix winner, Logan. You're making your first appearance in this spotlight. Can you feel the heat and the pressure already? I always say big pressure, but this is what I mean now. This is the dance.
I kind of feel like Leicester City when they won the league. You think there's a sense that they shouldn't be there. Even though, I don't know, it feels weird being involved with this. Normally I'm used to blowing my list and figuring out orders and stuff like that. And yeah, it's a bit strange to find myself finally here after all these years.
Yeah, well, we'll see how it goes indeed. Obviously, I've done a rundown the rules for the guys at home, so they understand what's going on. You guys are already fully briefed. I guess the only real change to pull up is the games that are being picked from the team members. So when Logan and Parky pick their team members, the games they get are being pulled directly out of their Grand Prix team, which has already gone through the 6-person draft. So that's a new sort of little wrinkle we've added for 2023. And as long as it doesn't disrupt things too much, I think we'll keep it because it simplifies things, gives a bit of synergy between the 2 competitions, whereas before you'd have people that would get a game on the team game but not in their Grand Prix team. It felt a little bit disconnected. So that's the only real change we've made there. Let's get on to it. Let's not dilly-dally around. We've got to do this infamous coin toss. Now, for years now, I've not changed the two options. We've either got a pound coin or a 5p. Parky is the champion, so he gets to choose the coin type, which may be important. Flight, how much spin can be generated off each of those coins. And this coin toss will determine who can pick for the first game or the first team member. So the winner of this coin toss will choose out of one of those. The one piece they surrender will go to the other competitor. So, Parky, you are the champion. You get to choose the type of coin. We've got a 5p and a pound coin. Which one would you like me to flick up into the air and see if it lands on heads or tails?
I'll go for the pound, please.
Pound coin. So you're making me risk more wealth than I'm comfortable doing, because this could end up on the deck. Logan,
that's the thing, though. It's going to end up on the deck, and you're more likely to go look for it if it's a pound.
Very true. That is very true. Although it's got... I remember last year, actually, I remember we was talking about... I think Paper chose heads last year because it had Lizzie's head on it. Obviously passed away now, so all these coins will have Charles's head, I assume, one day. Just a little somber note to start the year off and everyone. Anyway, Logan, heads or tails?
Tails.
Tails never fails, they say. So let's see if I don't cock this up. Oh, wasn't bad. Caught it. Oh, fuck it. I fucked it. Dropped it. There we go. fell in my lap. Tails never fails, indeed. I think it was tails last year as well. Maybe I'm conning it. I don't know. So, Logan, you've now got the dilemma in a way. You can choose to have the first game pick of the entire draft. So you can pick from all the hundreds of games that are due to come out in 2023. You can choose number one. But what that surrenders is the first team member pick, which will make up 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 on the draft order, because you'll be making your teams with these team member picks. It puts you on the back foot there. Are you going to back yourself, or do you want the key team member in your squad?
So, I think the more that's in my control, the better.
Okay, yep.
Therefore, I will have the first game pick.
You're going to go with the first game pick, which leaves Parky with the first team member pick. Excellent. So, well, let's do it then. Logan, what's going to be the number one pick?
I mean, it feels easy.
Right.
It's obviously going to be Football Manager. No. Obviously, my first pick will be Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah, that is a banker on there for sure. And I assume, Parky, on your side of things, you were almost certainly going to be picking that as well at number one.
Just struck off number one, yep.
Absolutely. Everyone's after that one, so it was no kind of great surprise there in terms of what was going to happen. Highly, highly anticipated. Got a release date, 12th of May 2023, so quite early. So from your perspective, Logan, you're kind of hoping if there is a delay, rather, there's at least time for it to land within the year, but...
They won't like that.
No, you wouldn't think so, would you? You've got to be relatively confident with that first pick, though, Logan. I really don't think there was another choice, to be honest, other than that.
No, well, the thing is, it's kind of like you'd probably expect that to be on, if you pick someone, you'd expect that to be on their list anyway, but you just never know. I'll cite back to Adcock when he went for what he did last year. You just can't trust people to make sensible decisions at times, so you're better off just going, right, I'll lock that one in and
deal with the consequences. At least
deal with the consequences, yeah. Absolutely.
And just for a little bit of extra data, that was number one on everyone's draft pick for the Grand Prix. I think that's the first time that's ever happened. Everyone wants Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. No surprise, because Breath of the Wild scored a 96. So why would you not want the follow-up to that in your team? Parky, then. So obviously the obvious number one's been taken away from you. This is almost more interesting to me. What's going to be your number one kick and number two in the overall draft?
The thing is, it's like we said, last year it was God of War Horizon. You were going to pick there your top two.
Yeah.
This year, after Legend of Zelda, it's like, ooh. So I'm going to go with Starfield.
Starfield. Back in Phil's Barmy Army and Bethesda Game Studios. Been a while since they've shipped a game of quality, but they are due one, so absolutely not a disgraceful decision there. Logan, lurking anywhere on your list?
Yep. So unsurprisingly, that was number 2 on my list.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's that's the one that, for me personally, that I'm kind of pinning my Xbox hopes on, and PC hopes. Obviously, it's coming to PC as well. I really want that to be excellent, and if they can make another Skyrim, which is a long time ago, mind you, but it's possible, and I think Parky, that's a solid. Maybe it won't score as high as Tears of the Kingdom, but I don't think it's going to be, as long as it's not Fallout 76 level. I guess that's what it could go either way. But this is a single player Skyrim in space lookalike. I don't think you've got any concerns about the release date, actually, because we don't have one.
It's first half 2023.
Yeah, they've said that though. Phil lies a lot. They don't.
The thing is, it's one of those that I couldn't risk it being high up on Loading's list.
Right, couldn't afford to let him have it.
Yeah, and I think Tears of the Kingdom is going to be I think it'd be the highest scoring game, barring some miracle releases.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think if Starfield comes out, it will be the second highest released scoring game.
Well, we'll see how that pans out. And look, we stay with you, Parky, because you're now in control. This is where you kind of regain the control after that uncomfortable period there. You've got 6 people to choose from. Each have games queuing up to get in your team. Now, who are you going to pick as your number 1 team member? And this obviously gives them the little bragging rights of being the number 1 pick for the entire competition. So you are gifting someone some ego as well.
Can you just run through the order again?
I absolutely can. We've got Adkins in number 1, Biff in number 2, Adcock in number 3, Paper in number 4, Salmon in number 5. Despite missing the deadline, he retained that spot because he got his list in before the 6th competitor, which was Hall, who went from 2 down to 6. So Adkins, Biff, Adcock, Paper, Salmon, Hall. That's the order. And like we've mentioned earlier, they're getting these out of their Grand Prix team, which have been through the full draft.
Can I have Adkins, please?
You can have Adkins indeed. I'm sure he'll be pleased to be retaining that that number 1 spot, which he had for a while. And then I think last year you blew him out for Hall, didn't you? I believe that was the way it worked. Adkins, now, number 1 pick, number 1 draft. So he had the advantage. Obviously, we know everyone had Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. He would have got... That's in his Grand Prix team, but Logan snatched that away from him. So, not that Logan was playing 4D chess, but, that's what's occurred there. What he's given you here is Baldur's Gate 3.
Sure.
Now, I want just a quick reaction to that. Now, just for those that don't know, they made the Divinity Original Sin games, which are like turn-based big RPG games, scoring up in the high 80s to the 90s, so real pedigree there. But Baldur's Gate 3, due sometime in 2023, August, being touted on the internet. What do you think of that? Is that a strong enough number 2 in your team?
I think I've got higher scoring games on my list, but I'm fairly happy with it.
Right. You say you're fairly happy with it. Now, I've got bad news.
I was fairly happy with Witch Queen last year, and that came in with 88, so what do I know?
I've got some bad news, though, Parky. Now, I don't wipe the arses of these competitors when they send me to it. And because I can't check every game that they send through and bail them out. But Baldur's Gate has been early access for over, I think it's nearly 2 years now. It already has a score in OpenCritic. So essentially,
how have you allowed that through?
Well, because I can't realistically check all the games and check for that. I have to allow the competitors to hang themselves with their own rope. Why Adkins has chose that, I don't know. I mean, it's just so out of left field. I didn't even see it on anyone else's list. And unfortunately, when I was doing my check-in earlier on, I do one check to make sure there's to capture these sort of areas. It's sitting there on a 70, which isn't a great score as it is, but that's because it came out in early access in 2021. So essentially, you've got a... Unless they
get blank for 70.
No, you won't get a 70. You'll have to transfer that out essentially. Unless they create a new Baldur's Gate page, which they might do. I've got all the metadata, so I've got all the page numbers and codes stored down in case there is some controversy. But Does that sour somewhat what was seemingly seen as a good pick to start with?
Yeah.
It's
You have to transfer.
I mean, that's fucking shambolic, isn't it? You wouldn't have been hoping for that from Adkins.
No.
I've just checked on Open Crew, by the way, and it says it's released on December the 31st, 2021.
Yeah, it's one of these ones that came out in early access, and sometimes they score them, sometimes they don't. Adkins obviously didn't check his mirrors on that one and just chucked it in there. And only when the final checks are made did I pull that. And I thought, well, best bring it up now so at least Parky knows that there's a potential blower. I have seen new pages created for stuff that comes out of early access. It does happen, but you know, it's whether you want to run it all the way down to the wire and sit there and wait on that. But Logan's smirking at that particular instance, which, you know, fair play to you. But now it's your choice. Adkins obviously out of the game. You can't choose him. Who's going to be your first pick in your team?
Yeah. Can I just say that I feel a bit sorry for Parky there?
Yeah.
Like, genuinely, because that's not what you'd be hoping for from someone like Adkins. I mean, just for a bit of context.
Well, if you had Nick's Tears of the Kingdom, you'd have had that. But you stole it.
I know, but I haven't even got Baldur's Gate on my list of 25.
No one has. It's nonsense from him.
You haven't got it on your list because it's already out.
It's already sitting there for score.
I did see it when I was doing some research. I did see it crop up, but I was like, no.
You have to check the open crit. This is what I keep telling people, because the reason why you can't have the 70 park is someone could check it and sort of guarantee a score, if that means.
I don't want the 70.
No, of course not. In this case, you don't. Yeah, absolutely. You don't want. Yeah. So you've kind of. It's just a 5-point penalty at this stage, if we're to believe that there isn't going to be a new page. But unfortunate. But this is what you're dealing with. With some of these clowns that are in this competition, and now Logan's got to pick the best of a bad bunch here. Who are we going for?
Well, this is a tricky one. I'm torn, but I'm going to trust in someone that I feel like doesn't often get the trust, and sometimes he deserves it, and sometimes he doesn't. But I'm going to go with Biff.
Oh, Biff to number 2.
I'm going to have Biff at number 2 pick. Yeah, I'm going to have him. And trusting him that he isn't going to give me one of those shit games that he's picked in the past. Biff's
a bit hot and cold, and he's not to be generally not to be trusted. He's obviously won the whole thing before, so I say that he's not to be trusted. He has gone off on his own and won the damn thing. So what he's given you, I think, is an interesting one. Comes out nice and early if release dates are to be believed. You're going to get Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Not in your. No, he doesn't like that. Not in your wheelhouse for games to play. I enjoyed the first one, Fallen Order, due 17th of March 2023. So it's an early one. If you want to put that pressure on, but the hum in there, it didn't sound. You didn't seem happy with that, is what I'll say.
For context, it's 16th on my list.
Yeah, and that's yes.
I've got it about the same.
Yeah, that's all you can judge it against, really.
So, you know, hope for the best, but you know, I didn't. I looked at it and I went, it doesn't look like it's going to be one of them high. You're looking for mid to high 80s, really. Yeah. So I wouldn't say I'm, you know, hugely disappointed, but I was surprised to see that one be that high up. I think.
Parky, you said it was a bit low down your order as well.
Yeah, it was one of those filler ones towards the end.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's better than -5.
That's true. That is true. Just for context, the original scored an 83. No disgrace. This is a sequel, so have they expanded on things? Have they sorted out the fucking map, which drove me up the wall in the first game? It could be onto a winner. You know, Respawn, I think, are a fantastic studio with the Titanfalls and the Apex Legends of the world. And it'll be really good to see a nice, expansive sequel to that. And it's coming nice and early, but we won't labour on the point. Star Wars Jedi Survivor is in Logan's team. That's what Biff's given him. Mr. Parky, we've still got people sitting on the bench waiting to be selected. All arms are up, they're waving around. Who's going to be your second team member?
I am going for the young Josh Hall, please.
So the blower of society nearly ruined the whole competition this year, single-handedly. Has been a consistent performer for yourself. A good lieutenant, or lieutenant we say over here, didn't we? for yourself. He has given you Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth.
Yeah.
So he's controversially gone for the one that's not due till next winter, which in my head says January, February time, 2024. But it could come November, December time. But was that lurking on your list anywhere, Parky?
Yeah, I'm happy with that. I had that at 10th.
All right, fair enough. Concerns about the release date, or am I just trying to stir the pot?
Ask me in October.
Of course, yeah. That's the sensible answer there, rather than trying to babble your way through it. Logan, anywhere to be seen on your list? Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, second part of this remake trilogy of 3, where one game has been split off into 3 games. I think they've announced that, but this is the second part of that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think everyone's pretty excited about that. All the Final Fantasy fanboys. I mean, as you know, it's not my bag, but yeah, it was middle of the roster for me. I think 11th. So yeah, it was on there. It was top half.
For reference, I'm all over that. So I am absolutely all over that when that comes out. Very much looking forward to it. Logan, who's going to be number 2 in your team to fill it out? We've already given Biff a shot, and already the whole dream team of Team Train versus Team Non-Train is gone. I mean, Parky did that at the very first pick.
But tactic. Well, yeah, I mean, I was like, I'm going to try and break this up as best I can. So I think, so just for a bit of context as well, I was going to go Hall, and I thought he's a traditional, good, reasonable scorer and contributor, but I like to give people a chance. The underdogs is what I like.
Don't.
But I am going to pick Paper.
Young Paper installed at number 2. Usually one of the last 2 to be picked, but in this instance he's got himself a number 2 on Logan's team. What he's decided is best for you. He did have Starfield, so Parky's kind of got you back there. He's bumped one off one of your team members' lists, so aggressive from Parky if you ask me, but he didn't know at the time.
Usual aggression. I'd expect nothing less.
What Paper's given you is Hogwarts Legacy.
Yep.
Now, where's that on your list? Lurking or not?
7th.
7th. So reasonably high up then.
Yeah, I was undecided on this game because I don't know whether my and I'm a bit of a Harry Potter fanboy.
Pothead.
Where it's like a bit of a pothead.
Potterhead, isn't it? You can't.
I don't. Yeah, well,
How kids
you
are
can say what
potted.
you want.
Well,
I can't say that. I don't know whether it's actually going to be any good or not. Being brutally honest, I want it to be. So yeah, the simple answer is I don't know, but I want it to be. I think that's wishful thinking from me more than anything.
the last showcase I saw, which was at the back end of 2022, it looked really good. But looks can be deceiving and talk is cheap. But I will say that the open world traversal, I don't know what they're called, those flying horses, whatever they've got a special name or something. But they were like roaring around. You can when you get back to your dorms, a dorm, whatever they live in, little university dorm. It's got a little bestiary where you can collect or save the animals out in the open world, bring them back, put them in a little pen, and you can buy toys for them. There's one of them running around with a rubber ball. I was like, this looks... That's right up my alley. That's what I want.
But if you're not into that whole thing... I mean, look,
I'm not.
I've seen of it...
Dogs, though.
I really like it, but I'm happy with that. To put it this way, my top 10... I feel like, other than my top two, Zelda and Starfield, I feel like you could pretty much rearrange them in any order. I can't really sit there and say I think each of those is going to be 1 or 2 points better than the one below it. I really do think you can mix and match. So with that at 7th, I feel like Paper's repaid me.
Well, nice early release as well, 10th of February 2023. So you'll find out soon enough. Parky, anywhere to be seen on your list, or did you stay away from this one for perhaps some non-gaming reasons?
Surprisingly, 7th as well.
Okay.
And exactly what Logan just said. It's got all the ingredients. It should be amazing.
Yeah.
But I just don't know. Whether it's I just haven't looked into it enough or whatever. But I just think such a big game.
Big pressure. App says
it's big pressure.
If you're releasing something like that,
well. Do you want the kicker, Logan?
Hello?
Do you want the kicker?
The kicker, go on.
There is a bubbling up of dissent for this game already before anyone's laid hands on it because of who wrote the fucking books. Old JK and these comments that have got her into hot water. I have seen in my fucking ultra nerd areas where I go off on the internet, there's already... You know, sometimes you just feel a game's going to get raked over the coals no matter what.
Yeah.
That is my only concern for a fantasy gaming league perspective, is will those scores be docked because of political or, well, if they're political, for ideological reasons or...
Quite possibly. I mean, you'd hope... It's always a bit tricky with these sorts of games because there's such a cult following for it now.
Yeah.
And if you don't meet that kind of people's high expectations, then it can almost knock it down even further.
It'll get double crapped on.
Yeah, and that is the concern for it, and that's why, you know, I like the look of it, but I am slightly... I can't sit here and go, it's going to be mid-80s upwards easy, because it could easily get crapped on.
Yeah. I think I'm just starting to see that crowd get a bit noisy. I mean, I hope that the game itself is great. But obviously this is a game of Fantasy Gamer League, and you have to take into account these critics because they do some strange things at times. Anyway, paper gives you Hogwarts Legacy in your team. Back to Parky. So you've got the task of choosing your final team member, and also you get to give someone a black eye by giving them the last pick punch in the nose. So it's sort of, I don't know if you enjoy doing this, Parky, but you're condemning someone to ridicule for a year.
Yeah, I think I condemned the same person last time as well, so I feel double bad. So last year,
I know what you're going to do.
Salmon was new, and I was like, let me pick him because I know what it's like to be new. You don't want to be picked last.
Right.
You listen to the podcast, seeing what team you've gone on, and you don't get picked last, and it's like almost makes your day. and he didn't let me down. So I'd like Salmon again, please.
Salmon installed, which condemns a poor Adcock to last pick. Ultimately deserved. We talked about Alaskan Truck Sim on the results show, and when there's that level of thought going in, you got to query it, haven't you, really? Salmon...
It is worrying. And Salmon has got that PC edge that I don't think myself, Atkins or Hall have.
No, and I think actually that's what's come through here in this pick. I think... of this particular part of the process, this is the little gem. This may not be the best scoring game, but I think it's going to be there or thereabouts. Diablo 4.
Yeah, I had that pretty high up.
The Juggernaut. That is... everything I've seen of it looks great. The previews have all been extremely positive, and we've got a nice sort of gap between now and the release date, 6th of June, so plenty of time for it to cook. I mean, I think Salmon's given you a little bit of a golden goose there, Park, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I agree. I've got that on 6 on my list, and it could as well be 3rd. So yeah, really happy with that pick.
Logan, anywhere to be seen on your list, or?
You know what? Funnily enough, it's not.
Oh.
It's just
Edge.
It's not my bag of things, to be honest. So I was like, I'm best. If you don't know it, stay away.
Yeah.
Like, unless it's something that's obvious to you. But I think, we played Diablo and I fucking hated it. So I was like, I can't sit here and back it. But I can understand why. People would like it, and I can see why it's on Mr. Salmon's list.
Well, there we go. That leaves you with Adcock, the unwanted sheep once again. Before I reveal the game, confident, happy. Would you have hung him out to dry?
Do you know what? I was thinking the same thing. And, I think the thing that annoys me about Adcock, right, is he should be higher up this list. He should be a number one, a top 1, 2, 3 pick. But because he chucks out shit like Alaskan Truck Simulator, he just, I don't know. You just don't know what you're going to get from it.
It erodes any trust.
Well, it's just the unpredictability. You think, I could get something great, but I'm just as likely to get something really trash that doesn't even get fucking scored. So it's like, really when you weigh it up on the balance of averages, it's like Salmon, even himself is a bit of a, unpredictable quantity. I mean, last year was his first year, so it's figuring yourself out. You'd expect him to be a bit wiser this year. but you would expect someone like Adcock to be a bit higher up. I'm just hoping, like I've literally got both my fingers crossed right now that he's not done what he did last year.
Yeah.
Basically, because as we've said, and I've said multiple times on multiple podcasts, Rainbow Six, what we doing? Like first pick, and then the subs he made. Like honestly, last year was a diabolical year for him. But on the gaming quiz, he always competes. So
yeah,
you know, I'm just hoping that he's going to have a better year for me this year. But I like Adcock. I'm glad he's on the team. Yeah. I like the team makeup. Just want him to give me a good game.
Okay, well, he has given you something that I'm very excited about. Again, that doesn't necessarily translate into good review scores. But I have a sneaky suspicion, if they get this right, that it will. Resident Evil 4 Remake.
Thank you, Tom Adcock.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's a nice one to get, I think, because another early one, 24th of March 2023, providing there's no delays and whatnot. But they've remade number 2, which I think is one of the great games of last generation, let alone survival horror genre. They remade number 3, bit of a slapdash on that, you could tell, much shorter, not as good. But this remake of Resident Evil 4, not only is Resident Evil 4 one of the... It's tabled as one of the greatest games of all time, just what they've shown off looked very, very good and had that smoothness that these new games have kind of brought to it. I mean, it's not a game you're necessarily going to play, Logan, but you sound like you're extremely... You'll watch it and sounds like you're excited to see what scores roll in. Yeah,
I mean, it's number 4 on my list. So, you know, it was right up there. They usually review well. The people love them. So yeah, I'm happy with that. That's better from Tom. It should be better from Tom. And I'm pleased that maybe it signals a return for the FGL form for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Parky, Resident Evil 4, anywhere to be seen on any lists of yours, or staying well away from a remake of one of the greatest games of all time, which means if you get it wrong, you might get a big old crap on your head.
I was never really a Resi fan, so I could only go by review scores, and I looked at 2, and obviously it was good.
Yeah.
And 3, not so much. So I was like, I can't chance it. So I had it kind of like 12.
Yeah. That's fair enough, because we have to remember, as much as I gas up number 2 being great, 3... I mean, the rumour was that 2 and 3 were supposed to be packaged together, and they went, nah, we'll release them separately, and 3 was so short that it didn't warrant that, a full price sort of release, so it got rightfully crapped on. This, however, should have all the bells and whistles of a full release, so fingers crossed from me. Getting some more survival horror loving. Anyway, we revert back to sort of the second part of this team process. We go back to Parky and back to Adkins. And his second game that he's going to give you is Marvel's Spider-Man 2. Only recently got a confirmed, yes, it's coming in 2023. But even Sony were up there saying, well, fall 2023. We're not giving you anything specific. But Parky, Spider-Man 2... What do you make of that?
I had that behind Zelda and Starfield. So
okay.
I'm ecstatic with that.
Well, that's excellent. So, any worries about the release date? I mean, they've only just said it's coming. It's coming 2023, but
no, they'll have that before Christmas.
Good point. Insomniac are prolific as well. The guys developing it, they really are excellent, and I'm looking forward to see what they do with that game. Logan, Spider-Man's surely up your alley in terms of a game to play one day, but not going to be on your team. Heartbroken, crestfallen, anything? Any emotion?
Yeah, I was, as you do, you go through this and you sort of iron up what's on your list, and that was number 6 for me. So, yeah, I think if it comes, you'd expect it to be really good. But I think it's just that if piece. So, yeah, PlayStation will need to deliver on that one.
Yep, get up Jim's arse. It's that pressure.
Yes.
You can put pressure on him through the podcast. Make sure he's doing it.
He'll be listening.
He's always listening. So's Phil, friend of the show. Logan, Biff's going to give you the second game. He's your number 1 guy. Another survival horror remake of one of the greats, Dead Space.
Yes, Biff. I knew that he would have this on his list. I knew he would, and I thought he might be the one to bring it through for me high up. Yeah,
I am psyched for this. Everything's on here. I've said I'm looking forward to almost without prejudice, but this one in particular, a remake of one of the one of the greats of survival horror. I mean, if you asked me to choose, I'm choosing Dead Space over Resident Evil 4, you know, in terms of back in the day, Jobby. That was the one for me, if we had to pit those two together. And we're going to get remakes of both of those in 2023. And just to make it sweeter for you, potentially, Logan, providing everything goes well, a nice early 27th of January release date. So, you know, it's feet up there. You've got one locked in, no worries about transfers. So, just sort of what the doctor ordered. Parky, Dead Space remake. How are you feeling about that slipping away?
I've kind of tried to actively avoid the remakes because I don't want to get burned. But if it ends up being year of the remake, then Logan's going to run away with this. Do you know what? I wasn't into horror games at all, so I mean, without spoiling it too much, I mean, Silent Hill's got a remake as well coming out, and I looked at that. Looked at Ready, looked at Dead Space. I was just like, I don't want, again, it's like you said before, stick to what you know. I don't know horror games. The only reason I know about Dead Space is because my sister loved it.
Excellent.
That is not the barometer I'm using to try and win this.
That's fair enough. But
I did do the research. It's not on my list, but only for that reason. I understand it's a good game, but it's just whether they nail the remake.
Yeah. Same thing applies to Resident Evil. So, Dead Space, so beloved. If you start crapping on it or not getting up to snuff, it's a double whammy in my view. So there is a little bit of pressure on that. And we saw the poor old Callisto Protocol completely just dragged through the mud. Glenn Schofield, who was one of the leads on Dead Space back in the day, comes up with this new IP and no one cares. Too hard. Too not scary enough. Go away. Anyway, we go to Hall for you, Parky. He's given you... I mean, this game has apparently been releasing for about 8 years, but I think this has to be the year. This has to be the year.
It's not Advance Wars, is it?
No, it's not Advance Wars. It's not. It's Hollow Knight Silk Song.
Okay.
So that's a lovely little indie game. I know people roll their eyes and say, bloody indies, they're not up to snuff, all this stuff, but... Let me just grab the original Hollow Knight score from OpenCritic. I've got the Metacritic one here, because that scored from memory extremely well. Yeah, a 90.
Yeah.
So Silk Songs, it started off as an expansion, ends up being a full-fledged sequel. Hall come in good with these little ticklers, as I call them. How pleased are you with that one, Parky?
Pretty pleased. I think I had that on my list a year or two ago. Yeah. And completely forgot about it, so I am pretty happy with that.
Yep. Logan, anywhere to be seen in your research, or indie game not interested?
I don't know enough about something like that to really... I did see it crop up, but it's kind of like... It feels like there's a lot of big titles coming next year, and it's kind of like I tend to save the indies and the smaller, quote-unquote games for potential transfers, because I feel like I can get into the detail a bit later in the year with it. So, no, wasn't on my list.
Fair enough. But
a very Hall game, though, I'd say.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. It's fucking hard, apparently. So, not sure if I want to get snarled up in that. I haven't played the original, so that kind of... I like to just keep my distance if I haven't done that. I think, I'll just stay away from that. People can play their Metroidvanias and deal with it, but there we go. Paper now for you. Concerning when I saw this.
Oh, no.
I mean, if I'll throw it out there, if anyone has heard of this or knew what this is or was before I had to go away and check that it A, existed, and B, that it hadn't already come out, a title called Homeworld 3.
Yeah, I did see this when I was looking through a list.
Oh, okay. Well,
it didn't make it on, so it got looked at, but didn't make the top 25. So that tells you what I think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Hopefully, Paper's found something. I don't even know. I would hope that it's not an early release date, and there's a potential, if necessary, to transfer. But who knows? I don't know enough about it to really comment.
So what I will say, we've got a Homeworld Remastered collection which came out in 2015 and scored an 87.
Okay.
So that's no disgrace. This on Steam planned release date first half of 2023, and they're asking me to add it onto wish lists and all sorts, which I'm not going to do. But
okay,
I mean, it may not be a disaster, but that's something to take away and mull over for a few weeks. And when that transfer window comes up, maybe have a look to see what's occurring. Parky, I mean, I've made the assumption this didn't appear on your list anywhere, but I personally completely was caught off guard when I saw this trickling in.
You've assumed correctly, my friend.
Yeah.
I've never heard of it. Didn't pop up in any research I did.
No, I don't know where he's found that, but Logan's got it, so we'll see at the end of the day. All that matters is the score, not necessarily the story behind it. Parky, you got Salmon, who's the man that you trusted to sort of bring this title home for you again, bringing up the rear, condemning poor old Adcock to the bins again. And he's gone back to basics, as I call this, because he's picked a game that he tried to get last year and got delayed. It's Company of Heroes 3. He's gone back to the well, hoping for that to occur. Initial release date of February 2023. You mentioned he gives you the PC slant. He's absolutely done that of Diablo, and he's absolutely continued that with Company of Heroes 3. Any thoughts?
No thoughts, because I have no idea what that's about.
Real-time strategy game. Actually, I've got the first two, but never played them. They are really highly thought of.
Yeah,
so
and this is why Salmon's a decent pick. He knows his PC stuff.
Yeah, he knows that Master Race, what they'll be clucking for. I'm just trying to see if I can find the last couple of those games. That's given me Company of Crime. I think they were actually a long time ago. Logan, did this appear on your list anywhere on your research, or was you...
Nah, fuck it, I don't. No. Ain't my bag, is it? So don't get sniffed at.
Well, surely the game's to find the best scores, not reinforce your own biases. Come on.
No, but to a certain extent, you have to, stick with what you know. Otherwise,
You get caught up in all sorts of genres that you've got no business being in.
yeah, I mean, even really, when I look at this list, it's very light on Nintendo games because it isn't my bag. So you just have to kind of gamble.
You pick bloody Zelda, number one.
Well, that's the only one, and that's almost a banker, isn't it? Beyond that, it's a gamble.
Yeah, no, I agree. Well, you're actually going to get two Nintendo games, courtesy of Adcock. He's going to give you your second one. Mm-hmm. Fire Emblem Engage.
Yeah. I thought someone might have this.
Did you? So you've seen this lurking, and what are your thoughts of that appearing? Because the last mainline Fire Emblem game was Three Houses back in 2019, sitting on an 89. So you can sit there and look at the trailers and go, that looks fucking pony, but if they give it to the right people, they tend to deliver. But how are you feeling about that?
Yeah, I mean, this was on my list, so I've slagged off Nintendo, but I think it's only one of 3 Nintendo games, maybe 4, out of a list of 25, and it sits at 15. So I know that the last one scored well, and that's why it kind of made it on the list. But again, I don't be knowing enough to know whether it's a banker or not. But I'll certainly take it over Alaskan Truck Simulator. That's for sure.
Parky,
I'll never let him live that down. By the way, I'll bring that up until the end of time.
I think it was just desperation. Is I need something, but
right. But Alaskan Truck Simulator.
No. I don't know why.
He's literally gone to the fucking bottom of the bins and got the last game out that was there.
I don't know why people don't just go on OpenCritic. If they're desperate, like you just need something, go to upcoming releases and pick something out of there. At least it's got a fucking page and it's got half a chance of something happening. They just pluck these things out of the arse end of these lists that are made at fucking October of the year. And I think, where are you going with that? Anyway, Parky, Fire Emblem Engage. Did you have that lurking?
I had it 4th.
Oh, you stole one then.
Yeah.
Interesting. I bet you were thinking that I'll save this one in the pocket and then chuck it out there when we pick the 3 games at the end. But
yeah.
Interesting. Well, look, that's that part of the process done. All the pressure is now back on you guys to pick the last 3 games to make up your 10. Just going to briefly run through both lists here. Parky, you've got Starfield, Baldur's Gate 3, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Diablo 4, Spider-Man 2, Hollow Knight Silksong, Company of Heroes 3. How are you feeling about that?
Pretty good. The -3's, the -5's not great, but the rest of it's pretty solid.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. Logan, got Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, Star Wars, Jedi Survivor, Hogwarts Legacy, Resident Evil 4, Dead Space, Homeworld 3, and then Fire Emblem Engage. No disgrace there, really.
No, I mean that Homeworld 3 is clearly the outlier there. You know, I mean that almost feels like a -5. But I don't know.
Are you even going to let that one breathe, or are you just going to murder it before it even has a chance to
let it breathe? I want to at some point when it comes around to it, I'll go. Paper talk me through it, and he's going to have a chance to justify that over certain other games, and I'll make him hang his hat on it and go right. This is gonna. Is this a make or break? What do you want to do? Because I won't let you live it down.
No,
20 years of friendship down the pan, or longer actually. That's 25 years.
Flushed all because of Homeworld 3.
Yeah, but that's obviously the outlier. And there's a couple of that could go either the way, like Star Wars and Hogwarts and stuff. But generally, I feel like I'm really happy with that list so far.
Okay, good. Parky, anyone that Logan got on his team that you would have preferred to have? I'm not trying to sow sort of dissent in the ranks, but was you like, oh, given you know the games now as well, that you can see what games everyone's offered, like there's got to be stuff there that you might have thought would have been better off with that.
I was going to pick Biff second.
Oh, so he nabbed the little Bifter boy. And seeing what he's given him, Star Wars, Jedi Survivor and Dead Space, is that a bit...
I'm not as upset.
Okay, not as upset. So he's not happy with those games, potentially, that Biff's given Logan. Logan, same question to you. Anyone that you were targeting? Because obviously you couldn't pick the first person. I assume you would have gone for Adkins as well. I mean, it's just the assumption. Number one pick, MVP from last year. It's sort of written in the stars. It's already a given thing. But after that, anyone else that you may have potentially looked at and haven't got?
Yeah, I mean, Adcock is clearly still a bit of the unknown. I mean, he's done me pretty well, to be fair to him. So I don't want to slag him off, and I won't. But initially, if you'd just given me three people, I definitely wanted Biff. Adkins, I would have probably taken just because he's, as you say, a consistently high scorer. The one for me actually was a choice between Biff and Hall. I thought that was a hard one, but I'm happy with the team makeup. Biff, Adcock and Paper, I think they've all done me pretty well, but it's just that Homeland 3.
Yeah, did Hall's drafts number put you off a little bit, the fact that he got bumped down to 6? Did you think, how many games did he missed out on before getting here?
It did. Yeah. I think losing 6 picks or 5 picks is a pretty significant one to get over, even for someone that's generally scores well like Hall. It's tricky down there. So I think it was pretty much the choice between Biff second, Hall 6th. I think Biff obviously had a chance to have some of the more preferential games at the top of his list.
Yeah, Hall did lose 4 games before he even got to his first one. So that's the damage that a draft order penalty can give you. But as I said, I've got no sympathy for these morons. They make their own bed half the time. I'm trying to run around like a blue-ass fly after them, and they're not putting in teams on time. And you say, give me 25 games, and they send me 23. I'm like, what? 25?
Got to 23 and went, that'll do.
Well, the reason that had to be installed because people used to send over 12 games, and I think that's not going to get you more than 5. You're going to run out. So I had to install a minimum number to just at least nudge people to make the effort. Anyway, tangents are plenty. Logan, we're back to you. You're now sort of in control of this particular phase. You get to pick your last... Well, no, you don't get to pick your last 3 games, but the first of your last 3, you get a free pick of. And this is where you've now got to consult your own list, having seen what's been taken, what's still available, and start to make those judgment calls. Now, people at home are sitting there saying, well, he's just made an order of a list. He's just going to go down it in numerical order, but... Having spoken to everyone that's played this, they never do that. There's always second guessing going on, depending on what's occurring. So, what's going to be your number 8 game in your list?
Yeah, this is tricky because I'm kind of dotting my I's up and down.
Scrambling.
A little bit, and I'm sort of thinking, do I go for one that I'm not so sure about? Do I go, but I'm just going to go for Final Fantasy 16.
Yeah. That is what I would say about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth being there in front of 16. That seems a bit bonkers to me, just for the fact that Final Fantasy 16's got a summer release date and it's got an actual date, whereas Rebirth hasn't. So one of the things I'm thinking, if for whatever reason Final Fantasy 16 needs to go into the latter end of the year, so moved out of June into, say, October, November, you can bet your bollocks Final Fantasy VII Rebirth's going to make way for that. That'll be pushed to 2024. So to get this far down and not to see Final Fantasy 16 there, I must say I am a bit surprised at. But
this is why I'm in an argument. I was thinking, I mean, it's number 5 on my list.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, what have I missed then?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a game that I'd expect like Hall to snap up, like and be at the top of his list, but it's not. And I was like, well, if he's not got it there,
no,
what am I missing? So
might have been a typo. He might have meant to say Final Fantasy 16, but he put Rebirth by mistake. Who knows?
Yeah.
Rushing around trying to get in before deadlines. Parky, Final Fantasy 16 gone as an option. Did that pop up in your research? Happy, sad, indifferent?
Top 10. But considering I've got Rebirth, I wouldn't have picked it. Wouldn't have put my eggs.
Don't want two Final Fantasy.
No,
I think that's good to diversify the portfolio where you can. Don't trust them to hit goal twice in a year. Once you're pushing it almost then. So that's absolutely the right decision there. What's going to be your number 8 game then, Mr. Parkleston?
It's tricky. I'm doing exactly what you said would happen, where you you look down your list and you're like, oh, I don't know. But I'm going to go for Forza Motorsport.
Yes, this is I call it a reboot. I don't know how you reboot a fucking motor racing game, but for those that are tracking the numbers, it's Forza Motorsport 5. It'd be the 5th entry. Should be getting it in the first half of the year. Again, Phil's little promise of everything we've shown you will come in the next 12 months, and that timer ends in June of 2023, but they've been very quiet lately. It's been a while since we've had a Forza game, but they do tend to be trusty. What's the thinking there?
Yeah, it's previous scores very high, reviews really well, and the big Phil says it's coming out. It's coming out.
Yeah, he doesn't. We say he doesn't lie, but we've caught him plenty of times on the main podcast line. Logan, you're a bit of a petrol head. I would imagine this was somewhere on your list, but as to how high it would be, I don't know. But maybe I've done that thing where I've made an assumption and made an arse out of myself.
Not on my list.
Well, did you even think about that?
I did see it, but again, it's one of those where I was like, I think what's thrown me is the name. I was like, if I'd have seen Forza Motorsport 5 or something, I'd have probably been like, oh, okay, but it just went Forza Motorsport. And it made me go, don't know, stay away. I had other stuff anyway. But it'll probably score really well.
Hasn't scored below an 80 in its last 3 entries. The lowest one was Forza Motorsport 5, and they've only been getting better since then. It's no Forza Horizon. Let's not not muddle it. But it should still, you'd hope, produce the goods, and should be a showcase of the Series X as well, which I think they've been lacking a little bit this gen. And it'll be chucked on that Game Pass for better or for worse, so people will give it an extra 5 points for that. So that's absolutely one way to look at it. Well, Logan, you get to counter with your 9th pick. What's it going to be?
So I've got 2 more picks, right? We get 10 games.
Correct.
Right. Next game is Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League.
He's took the gamble. Took the bait. Cool.
It's concerning, isn't it? But I can't not, for some reason, have it in there.
I mean, now look, this game's due for 2023. I'm just trying to look up when Arkham Knight came out, because that's the last game they did, Rocksteady. It's been, 7 years? I mean, it's been a long time. Yeah, 2016, so 6 years it'll be by the time this comes out. Tell a lie, it won't be. It'll be 8 years, because it's 2015. The VR game came out in 2016. That's a big old gap. And
it is a big old gap.
I will say personally, I don't know what this game is. They've shown me a lot of cutscenes and CGI stuff, a little bit of gameplay, but I don't know what's going on here. I mean, you'd think it's going to score better than Gotham Knights.
I'll take the bait.
I've
absolutely taken it hook, line, and sinker. I think it feels like it's worth a gamble. It could just not be, but I want it to be good. So again, I feel like a lot of my list is like hope. If I put it out there, it will be, but who knows? It's there. It's in, locked in, done.
It's definitely high on people's agenda to see what it's like because it's just been so long. And I'm looking forward to see more of it. Parky, Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League. Were you tempted to take the bait also, or did you just stay well away?
Stayed well away.
Wouldn't touch it with a barge pole, he said there. That's my translation.
Not on the list.
Not on the list at all. Interesting. I don't disagree with that, considering what's occurring with that one, but we'll see. It says May 26th here, so a little bit of time to mull over that one. Parky, what's going to be number 9 for you?
I'm going for Kirby Return to Dreamland.
This is the deluxe edition, I believe. And what is that? Is it a remake or a remaster? I can't actually keep track of what they're doing with this one. It's not a brand new entry, is it?
Genuinely couldn't tell you.
He's seen the word Kirby and he's gone for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what we got here, so I think it's a remaster of a Wii game. Yeah. There you go. Well, Kirby's, back in action, loving life. And again, you haven't got to wait long for that. 24th of February 2023. Logan, you sort of poo-pooed a lot of the Nintendo stuff. But Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe is a new version of Kirby's Adventure Wii for the Nintendo Switch. So it's a Wii port. What do you make of that?
I mean, I took the bait of the Kirby name and bunged it on the list just in case.
Oh, so it was there?
Yeah, I mean, it's 18th. It was there just in case it was required. But yeah, again, I don't know too much about it, so I was just like...
Yeah, I'm trying to find the scores of the original, because OpenCritic wasn't around then. Got an 80 on Game Rankings.
This is the second one that's going to be 3D, if I'm right.
Oh, okay. They're going to pump it
along the line. And yeah, the other one did okay, so...
It did. You're right. You're right there. Logan, this is it now. Final game, and the pressure's off, and you can't go back and change it.
Yeah.
What are we doing for number 10? Is it going to be
easy?
Is it going to be a Hail Mary, a pun, a risk it for a biscuit, as people would say, or are you going to be conservative Southgate-like and watch the World Cup slip away?
Easy pick. Football Manager 2024.
Christ, he's gone for it.
I mean,
I did wonder whether it would make an appearance out of the gates here. And what I would say is, when we discussed this on the podcast, 2023, below expectation, in my view, that come in as. You're expecting more from that. So is your theory that they'll have to pull their finger out for this next one, so it should be a bounce back? 83 is no disgrace.
So if you look at the scores, right, if you score consistent 80, 81, 82, 83, you're winning it, really, or you're in with a chance, right? So it feels like, at the very least, unless people are just getting sick of it and it's progressively just going, another one, another one, and it's sort of not getting the reviews it deserves, in my view. But it feels like it's a solid mid-80s pick, and if it errs either side of that, great. It's still, you know what you're going to get, roughly speaking, with it. And we've got a couple of I was going to see how it goes in terms of the picks. I was like, if there's a couple in there that are, if everything feels like a bit of a banker, if you like, or is a really solid game, then I feel like perhaps I could leave it out. But I think because I've got a couple in there that might need transfers, I don't want to have to pick another one that will then require a transfer, if that makes sense. No.
Fair enough. It will arrive at some point, and it will be a score, so you can always rely on it from that. Like I said, not like 2023 scored badly. It didn't. It just, I think 86 we got to in 2022.
It's below the mean average. Like last year, definitely. It didn't do. It was 2 or 3 points off where I'd expect it to be, but again, 83 in this game is
at number 10.
There was, is not to be sniffed at, in my view.
Fair enough. Parky, big football fan yourself. Was you ever tempted with the dark arts of Football Manager?
Oh, I've lost like days of my life to that game. I was tempted to pick it because I knew Logan would pick it.
Just
no, don't do it.
I was playing some 4D chess. I thought if he doesn't, he might think I'll pick it, he might not. If I get to like 9 or 10, I still haven't picked it. He might be thinking, "Oh, is he not going to?"
It's quite restrained because people let their emotions get the better of them sometimes and just go after, just little scabs to try and pick at the opponent. But he's not taken the bait there, and we'll see how it turns out. It's usually pretty solid, and for a number 10, at that stage, it's all a bit of a lottery down at this back end. But Parky, are you going to roll the dice? We know that your list segmented into several risk sections.
Yeah.
Or is it going to be just tighten things up at the back, and then we'll see how the season unfolds? Because it's going to get brutal early on. It's just going to come firing out the gates here with some of these release dates.
Yeah, that's the worrying thing. When's the first transfer window?
I believe it'll be March.
Early March?
It will start a calendar month of March, so it runs for a whole calendar month.
Oh, okay.
Because
Cool.
those idiots can't maintain dates for deadlines. So I thought if I just give them a month, then they should be able to manage that. And even that's a struggle sometimes.
Cool. I mean, it's tricky. I'm going to go for Destiny Lightfall.
I thought you might. Yeah.
That's a shrewd one. I mean, the last, what was it, the Witch Queen, I think that done fucking amazingly well, considering they can blow hot and cold, but they seem like they're on one a little bit.
They're bringing a new dark subclass in on this one,
right,
which is why I think the hype might be a little bit more.
Yes.
Even if it gets mid-80s, I'll take it. The other two that I was looking at, is one of them is kind of dropped off in recent years. Still like high, it would be guaranteed 80, but Logan's list, I think I need better than guaranteed 80s at this stage. And the other one's due out after March, so I'll probably sub that in for Baldur's Gate.
Yeah, it looks like that's going to have to be a thing to do. So that's interesting. Let's run through the list itself. Actually, Logan, let's get your thoughts on Lightfall, a former Destiny nut. I don't know if he was a Destiny nut, but you certainly came along for the ride when we were doing those raids when it was a thing, and obviously others have taken up the mantle now and gone forward with that. But I've not played one for donkey's years in terms of an expansion. But in terms of the FGL, usually we go by the Witch Queen. That was a stunning, I think it was an 88, which is ridiculous for an expansion, for goodness sake.
Yeah, I mean, it made it onto my list at bang on number 25, just because I was like, well, if I'm struggling, I could go for it.
Yeah.
But I thought Parky would have that on there because of the Witch Queen one that he had last year that did so well. So yeah, to your point, it feels like sometimes it can blow a bit hot and cold, but if they get it right again, then it's going to be another good pick for Parky, I think.
Absolutely. And Parky, will you be jumping into Destiny 2 Lightfall? Were you retired from that game?
I will be playing that quite a lot, I imagine.
Of course. Excellent. Well, let's run through the order just one more time for the guys at home. So start with your team, Parky, as defending champion. Starfield, Baldur's Gate 3, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Diablo 4, Spider-Man 2, Hollow Knight Silksong, Company of Heroes 3, Forza Motorsport, Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe, Destiny 2 Lightfall. Happy with that? Concerned?
Yeah, pretty happy, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, no, that should be right, yeah.
Excellent. Logan, any thoughts on Parky's team? You can pick holes in it, you can commend him, you can play as however you want.
No, I think, I have to be honest, I think both lists are reasonably strong. I think we've both got an outlier, really, in terms of, Baldur's Gate 3 for Parky and Homeland 3, all the threes, ironically. Homeland 3 for me. I mean, at least Homeland, I guess I've got a chance with, whereas Parky, bless him, hasn't got a chance with Baldur's Gate. But I think, strong list, you've got to say.
Yeah, at this stage, they usually are strong lists, unless you get a Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Extraction dumped on your doorstep as a first pick. Logan, you've got Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, undoubtedly the diamond pick for everyone, because everyone had it as their first pick. Star Wars Jedi Survivor, Hogwarts Legacy, Resident Evil 4, Dead Space, Homeworld 3, Fire Emblem Engage, Final Fantasy 16, Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, and Football Manager 2024. Solid list, or are you already thinking, could have done better with that?
No, I feel like that's gone better than I thought it would be. I mean, there's a couple of games in there that I could go either way, but we'll have to see how it goes. I mean, as an initial list, though, I do feel quite pleased with that. I think just really the one unknown for me continues to be that one paper picked, but I'll quiz him more about that at some point to understand the logic there, because there might be something there that is a blind spot for me. So I'll see what he's got to say.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. Now we need to move into just some admin before we go to the final phase of this, and it's the team names. So, Parky, I'll let you go first in terms of a team name for this group of misfits that you've put together. What are you going to go for? Did you get time to think of something clever? Are you sticking with the hashtag theme, or are we going to change it up? We've got a hashtag there.
No. Yeah, we're going for hashtag 99 problems.
And are we using digits or are we spelling out 99?
Digits.
Yep.
And then brackets after the showdown, aim 1.
Aim 1.
I'll type it to you.
Oh, you send it to me and I'll pop that in. Luckily, I haven't got. I'll fix that in post, that one. So just one more time. What's the full team name?
Put it down as hashtag 99 problems.
Yep. Okay. Done. Logan, what have you come up with?
Right. So, I'll be interested to see if either of you know what this is. Right. But I'm going to say it, and Abs, you're going to hate this. You're going to hate it. As long as but that's kind of
as long as we can air it on the BBC one day, that's fine.
It can 100% be aired. 100% be aired. But my team name is circle, 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 R1, L2, L1, triangle, circle, triangle.
What code is that?
Right. So this was one of the most famous cheat codes that I used to enter in my gaming life.
Good
well,
Lord.
Actually, it was between this one and another one. It is.
Oh, my God.
And this is the cheat code to spawn the Rhino in GTA 3 on the PlayStation.
Well, I'll ask you to type that over to me and I'll pop that in.
Yeah, to make it
post.
easy, you can have circle times 6 at the beginning.
Okay.
So it's circle times 6, R1, L2, L1, triangle, circle, triangle. Yeah. But failing that, I was like, I don't know if he's going to let me have that.
No, he can have it.
Every time he does this, he's going to have to say that, which is kind of what I wanted to do at the same time.
Yeah. So
I was like, it's just going to be trying to recite that. But if not, I was going to have Phil's, in brackets, friend of the show, Army.
Well, you can have the original one of circle times 6, R1 or whatever it is. And what I usually do is just refer to things as Team Parky or Team Logan to get myself out of a jam. But that'll be documented at least on the documents that go out on there. Well, that's the team name bit done. We should take a quick look at the Grand Prix. Now, I have sent you guys a list. Whether you can access it or not, I don't know. Obviously, I didn't send this to you before the draft was concluded, but I've dropped you a list in there, which should just be the Grand Prix only, if you need to refer to it, but I will be reading it out. So let's start with Mr. Adkins. The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom comes in at number 1. Baldur's Gate 3, as we've mentioned, Spider-Man 2, Final Fantasy 16, he's the one who bagged that one, Lords of the Fallen, Forza Motorsport, Stalker 2, Heart of Chernobyl, Tekken 8, which was stunningly not present anywhere else. I couldn't believe that no one else went for Tekken 8. The day before, and then he's also taken the bait, Logan, Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League. What do you make of that? If you've just come out fresh after winning it, is that a strong first draft winning team potentially?
I'd love to know what this Baldur's Gate's all about.
I don't know.
I mean, it's just bizarre when you look at some of the stuff that's below that. But yeah, I think that Zelda, Spider-Man, Final Fantasy, Forza, Tekken.
It can add up.
It can add up. So yeah, it looks pretty strong. Other than that, obviously that Baldur's Gate below.
I can't vouch for that one. Parky, any thoughts on that? I mean, it's been a few years since you've been in the Grand Prix, scrabbling out of these lowly losers, but this is where you
I'm surprised. Salmon didn't get a Stalker too. I think he picked that for me last year.
He did, yeah, and because of the Ukraine or Russia invading Ukraine, it got basically delayed almost indefinitely. But they have kind of come out in the last few months saying we are working on this and planning to get it out in 2023. But yeah, that's a good spot actually, because that was one of the games he had on there.
Yeah, it looks like a solid list.
Yeah, excellent. Biff, number 2, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, Dead Space, Atomic Heart, Street Fighter 6, Dead Island 2, so a couple of deads there, Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe, so Parky has found a kindred spirit in Biff, Like a Dragon, Ishin, Forspoken, Deliver Us to Mars, Oni, Road to be the Mightiest. I mean...
I don't know what that is.
Well, you know how difficult it is at this stage because there's 60-odd games being pumped out, but I don't know what you think. It feels like that starts off pretty strong. Atomic Heart's one that is looking and shaping up nicely. And obviously, you've got the Street Fighters in there, we've got Dead Space, we've got Star Wars, and he's dropped a little Yakuza game, which is what Like a Dragon is in there as well. But
yeah.
Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a tricky one for Biff. Street Fighter 6, I was umming and ahhing over, but I think Street Fighter 5 got like a 75.
Yeah, because they released it like fucking piece. Yeah, they released it like poorly. It was only on PS5 and PC, and it was lacking content. I mean, you're right to leave that out. It can't be trusted.
It was 10th on my list, but I was, I would probably have picked other stuff over it in the end. Forspoken, I wasn't too sure about. I did see that Like a Dragon. Dead Island 2 was probably going to be a fun game, but is it going to review that well? I mean, it's an interesting list. I think it's one of those lists that you feel could go one way or the other for him in some ways.
I played the Forspoken demo, you see. It's about 45 minutes long. It felt awful to play. And I don't know if that's because you're dropped into a demo with hardly any context, and it's difficult to really pick things up because they just give you tutorial after tutorial. There's clearly a ton to the game. There's loads of shit going on, whether it's crafting, resource collecting, different types of magic spells. Then you can change them on the fly. There's a lot happening. I just don't think the demo is always going to have a tricky kind of uphill battle with me. But the character movement for an action game just felt sluggish. Like, it was really animation heavy. It felt like Red Dead Redemption 2, which, when you move your character and he sort of moves with that inertia, there's like a flow to it. They don't just snap and you don't move around that lazy bastard. But it kind of felt like that. And I was like, this doesn't feel good for an action game. So that's a concern for me. But that's me waffling again. Parkleston, any thoughts on Biff's list there? Anything you had?
Whenever we look at the Grand Prix ones, I always find that Biff is the closest list to my list.
Really?
Yeah. Strangely, I had most of his games. I didn't have Street Fighter 6 because I looked at Street Fighter 5 and I was like, absolutely not. But I had most of the rest of that.
Atomic Heart?
Yeah.
Ah, nice. Well, that's interesting to hear about. But Biff number 2 ends up with those 10 games. Adcock number 3, Resident Evil 4, Fire Emblem Engage, Horizon Call of the Mountain.
I can't believe he's put that on.
I can't believe he's gone for a VR game.
Yeah,
I was tempted.
No.
No way.
After Half-Life Alyx, mate, I don't write any VR games off anymore.
Well, right, that's well said. However, how many shit games have we had before that, before we finally got to one that scored reasonably that we could say, yep, we'll confidently put that put that for number 3 in our team.
If it was just called Call of the Mountain, I'd agree with you.
Right, it's got Horizon. Yeah, I don't know.
That's bait, right? That feels like bait.
I think that's...
I mean, I've took some bait in this, but they've deliberately put Horizon in there so people know. I'm not sure
it's launching the same day as the PSVR 2 as well.
Yeah, it's the launch title.
PSVR,
it's the launch title for PSVR 2. I mean, it's a lot of pressure on its shoulders, bless it. But I must say, given what I saw of it, and VR is nothing about what you see, it's all about how you feel. They still had some concerning things, like in the boss battles, you can only circle round this predetermined ring, so you can only press left or right. You can't like move or teleport around the boss. And I was like, what are we playing out there? Anyway, that's number 3 on his list. Alan Wake 2, Cocoon. I mean, that's up there with Alaskan Truck Sim for me. I don't know what that is. Redfall. He's took the gamble on Phil's Barmy Army. Hades 2, which will be in early access this year. Whether or not it'll get the reviews and come out to a 1.0 this year, I don't know. Death Stranding 2. I mean, at least 3 years away. So see that one nearly nearer 2030 than it is now. Silent Hill 2. I don't know if that's coming out this year. I will say this last one, though, I like Replaced, has shown very well in the showcase that I've been watching, a little indie game, but I mean, I don't know if we want to say much more on Adcock since we pulled apart Horizon Call of the Mountain, and Parky tried to back him there, but rest of that list, Logan, it's a bit...
Yeah, I looked at Death Stranding 2 and I was like, did I miss something there? Like, Redfall, it's not what I'd have done pretty much from... I mean, I got Resident Evil 4 and Fire Emblem Engage, but
after
you go down from there and it's really questionable.
Parky, any comments?
Yeah, I mean, I had Death Stranding 2 as about as much chance as GTA 6 coming out this year.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. Oh well, he said he could win it from third, and I said back to him, cocky, and I think that's may have played out there. Paper. Starfield was snatched away from him in the team game, as we know, but he's got Starfield, Hogwarts Legacy, Homeworld 3, Bayonetta Origins, I can't pronounce that name, what's that? Cereza and the Lost Demon, One Piece Odyssey, Sea of Stars, Pikmin 4, Football Manager 2024, Wild Hearts and Minecraft Legends. Logan, he's on your side. How do you feel for him there? Sort of former champion, knocked off his perch, had to go back into the bins this year. Is that a good bounce back team?
There's a couple of good games in there. I think Pikmin I had, Bayonetta I had, Hogwarts, Starfield, Football Manager, Wild Hearts stayed away from. That Homeworld, you think, you look what you've put that above. I'm sort of looking at it thinking, have I missed something? Does he know what he's up to? But it's not a bad list, I think. There might be a few on there that you might want to transfer, though.
Yeah, it's always the case in the Grand Prix, unfortunately. Parky, any thoughts of Paper's team?
Yeah, solid list. I had a lot of those as well, apart from Homeworld and Sea of Stars. So, yeah, solid.
Yeah, I like Minecraft Legends at 10. I've got a feeling that'll do solid 80 odds. So that I always look at the lower ones and think that's a good one to get so low because it clearly wasn't your first choice. Salmon, number 5, missed the deadline but remains 5th. Diablo 4, Company of Heroes 3, Octopath Traveler 2, Moving Out 2, The Wolf Among Us 2, Wo Long Fallen Dynasty, EA Sports FC, and he's done the same thing as Adkins. Disney Dreamlight Valley, early access last year, already has a score. Unless a new page is pulled out of someone's arse, that's going to be a transfer out. Tales of Cynthia Remastered. What's this? Theatre Rhythm Final Bar Line. I mean, it sort of goes off the boil a little bit in those last 3 or so, but Logan, what do you make of that? Bit top heavy, that one.
I find it fascinating how someone's list could be so different to what I pick out.
I'm always so surprised that everyone mostly gets a game. It really does surprise me every year.
I've got one game from his list, and that was Octopath Traveler 2, and I had that at 24.
Not getting the seal of approval from Logan. See if we're getting.
I mean, The Wolf Among Us, I'd love to be great. Like, Wolf Among Us 2, but it's just not going to review mid-80s or something. I just don't see it. So, yeah, I mean, some of those are fascinating, really. I mean, EA Sports FC, Disney Dreamlight Valley, Tales of Symphonia Remastered, Theatre Rhythm Final Bar Line. I mean, I
don't know where he's pulled those from. They're all in capitals as well. That's what annoys me. Well, Parky, any positive things to spin on this? I think it's a good start to the list, and then
just the positive bits is I got the two good ones on his list. I think.
Yeah, I mean, you've done exactly the same as when I looked at Adcock. And thank God I got those first two, because the rest of it I would not have been happy with.
Although I did have that Wolong Fallen Dynasty on my list.
Yeah, that's that's one that's lurking on Game Pass very shortly as well. So I think it's March or maybe February. So that one may well do well. And then we go to the final man, Hall, who squandered a second place drafting order for missing deadlines and ended up 6th. A real fall from grace. But we take a look at his list, and I don't think it's that terrible considering he's the last pick or number 6 in the draft. So we've got Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, as we know. We've got Hollow Knight Silksong. He's stuck with Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp, hoping that Nintendo decide that actually we can release this game whilst the war is still going on, or that it all packs up in the next year or so. Kerbal Space Program 2, above Destiny Lightfall, which I find fascinating. Persona 4 Golden. Now, this is another one that's highlighted as that already has a page, but that was for the PC release only. It is coming to other platforms. It might just be big enough where it gets a brand new current gen page. So I'll be tracking that, but he'll be informed that at present that may have to be transferred out. Metal Slug's Tactics, Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection, and Persona 3 Portable, which again, I believe has a page, but it's a page for... Well, it hasn't got a score, basically. I don't know who made it, but apparently it was reviewed in June 15th, 2023, so they've gone forward in time somehow, Kotaku, and done that. But that's got a page, that's fine. It hasn't got a score. It's a release of the portable version of that. But Mr. Logan, you missed out on Hall. That's his final list. I'll tell you what, I think he's done well from 6th there to pluck some of those. Unless you disagree, maybe.
Well, I'm not. I mean, I was interested to see Kerbal Space Program 2 on there. Wow. I think that was the biggest surprise. Some of them are just not my bag. I mean, I don't know about Metal Slug Tactics. Persona 4 Golden was on my list at 23rd.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a very Hall-y list, I think, and that's what you expect from him. He gets these, I'd probably say that the games that have got less of the limelight, at least in my world. Absolutely.
Parky, he's in your team. What do you make of that from 6th place? I wonder what his list could have looked like if he was 2nd, but that's not what he's got.
I don't think he'll finish 6th on that list, that's for sure. It's pretty, like, the top half is very strong.
Yeah.
I didn't see much about Horizon Forbidden West Burning Shores. Is that like an expansion?
Yeah, so it's an expansion that's coming out this year. So I think if you're going to choose one of the Horizons, that's the one to take, not the VR game. But Burning Shores, like many people, a lot of people must have not seen it because he was the only man that had it anywhere close on his list. So some research was clearly done there. But those Persona games, that Persona 4 Gold, if that gets its own page, like a new one, that's going to be high 80s. Persona 3 Portable, less confident in getting a higher score, but it's still Persona. We've talked about Destiny potentially doing another fantastic job. Burning Shores should be solid, if nothing else. Silksong, it's Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is the one that I think might have to be subbed out, but if it comes, who knows? I'm going to ask you both the impossible question. Logan, you go first. Who are you going to attach your winning horse? Who are you going to back to win this from this stage? It's almost impossible, but I do believe last year you were given a fairly good chance by Paper and Parky. I might be misremembering. So sometimes it's a blessing to sort of just give someone a little bit of sprinkly dust of good luck as they head out the gates.
I think Adkins has got a strong list. That Baldur's Gate and losing 5 there, a lot would depend on what he does with that. But I think when you got Zelda, Spider-Man 2, Final Fantasy 16, Forza, Tekken, I think that looks like a very strong list. Biff's, not really. I feel like probably the strongest lists are Adkins and Paper, possibly Hall. But I think it feels more interesting this year. I don't know why, but it feels quite even. I'd probably say Salmon's list, especially towards the end, really peters out, and I don't know what Adcock's up to. Again, beyond sort of the top two. But yeah, I mean, it feels like I think it's Adkins to lose. That's how it feels to me with the list that he's got.
Well, I think everyone's kind of said that when he's finally got number one draft order, like everyone expects him to have won it. It's like City with that Champions League, expected to win it, and they just haven't been able to get over the line.
It's got some really strong games in there. I think there's a lot of variables. Spider-Man, when does it come? If it comes.
Yep.
I don't know about that Lords of the Fallen or the day before. Suicide Squad, as we've already discussed, can go one by the other. If Putin keeps up what he's doing, Stalker 2 might get pulled again, and all of a sudden it looks completely different. So, but I look at Paper's list: Starfield, Hogwarts, Bayonetta, Football Manager, Pikmin, Minecraft Legends. I think there's some good solid games on there. And we've already said Halls looks pretty good from a 6th spot as well. So I think it's going to be really tight, personally. But Adkins having Zelda and Spider-Man feels like those two score really highly, and he can get some good 80s, mid-80s scores and whatnot. It feels like he should be in the driving seat. Yeah,
absolutely. Parky, hey, where are you sitting? Who are you going to sprinkle your good luck?
Echo Loading's views on this. I think it's Adkins to lose, with pressure. Paper and Hall having pretty strong lists as well. But everybody's got, I would say, a solid half of a list.
Yeah.
And so I think transfers are going to be big, because if there's some unexpected ones that come out, if people are first in and they get the transfer, it could be a game changer.
Yeah, I tend to agree. So we're back in Adkins because he's number one, but cognizantly aware that it's still only half a list potentially that's going to be strong. I think that's a good analysis there. There's definitely great parts in all of these lists, but there's also some questionable parts. But that's the way the Grand Prix always works. It's so difficult to get a consistently solid team because all these games are just disappearing every round that you kind of have to scrape down your list and see what's occurring. What have I got down here? I've got some stats here that I made. And, so the stats that I made was Paper on his overall list had the most games in his initial top 10 that made it through to his team. So he got 6 out of his top 10. So I don't know if that's good necessarily based on some of the stuff that he's got in there with Homeworld lurking. But there's a stat for you. The lowest was joint by Salmon, Adcock and Adkins, who only got 4 of their top 10. So even Adkins, sitting there in pole position, only able to get 4 of his top 10. The lowest ranked game, so this is how far we had to go down the list. Biff took the title there. We only had to go down to number 19 to get his final game. Paper was the worst, 26. So he had a big gap. He got the first 10, got 6 of the first 10, and then struggled. Had to go all the way down to 26 to scrape up Minecraft Legends. So he was lucky that he actually went above and beyond the minimum threshold of 25, because he would have ended up with a blank. And then the final one, which I like to track because it shows effort levels, number of games submitted. Adkins stormed it with a whopping 35. So he wasn't taking any risks for blanks. And the lowest was, unsurprisingly, Hall. Tell a lie. Salmon and Adcock with 25, who just did the bare minimum. Biff did 26. Paper did 31. Hall did 27. So there's some pointless.
Adkins did 35, and I haven't got 5 of his top 10 on my list.
Yeah, well, that's the way it can work sometimes. Let's close things down by just going back to your list that you had. What's missing off your list, Parky? We sort of started to twinkle toe around it, but what's on that list that hasn't made it? And obviously, you can keep stuff from us if you're thinking potential transfers down the line. Don't want to tip your hand, but anything you wish to share that didn't make it onto the list that you're thinking, perhaps.
Formula One.
Right, yeah,
again,
solid.
But then it's kind of dropped off a bit
massively. Yeah.
Skull and Bones.
Cool. I think that's I don't know.
I mean, the words "touch it with barge pole" come to mind for me. I don't know. I just know that's been.
It's been long in development.
That 1 year.
I think it's been in a list, and I've got it somewhere. I think it went all the way back to 2018. It was in someone's list, lurking. Like, that's how long that game has been about in people's minds.
We watched it, didn't we? I think you might have sent me a link to it at some point, Apps, and it just looked like absolute chaos. I was like, I can't even figure out what is going on here.
No.
The only reason I was tempted is 9th of March. They've set the release date.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, good lord.
It was supposed to come out this 2022, but got pushed out.
Yeah. Usually when they got a number, like March 9th rather than first half of the year, I'm like, maybe. And you think March, you get pushed back to September, but we'll see. I didn't fancy the risk.
No, that's fair enough. Any others you want to call out?
That was pretty much my whole list.
Okay.
Most of it got picked. Yeah, pretty much all of it got picked.
Lovely jubbly. Logan, what's left lurking on your list that you're happy to share, or maybe none at all?
I mean, I did a list of 25 here, and there's Crash Team Rumble, Alan Wake 2, Bayonetta, Pikmin 4, Dead Island 2, Forspoken, Redfall. There's a number of games. I think there's definitely options. But I don't know, when I was going through it, it doesn't feel like a huge amount of games have got confirmed release dates at this point, and it always makes me a bit nervous. So I think it feels like there's a lot of I think we've gone through some years where there's sort of like 4 or 5, maybe 6 like really big anticipated games. It feels like there's a number of games that are coming out this year, like huge, like I'd just sort of say like mid-table games. There's a huge number of those that create possibilities that I don't ever really remember seeing, especially some that have fallen over from last year, like Redfall and Forspoken and stuff.
Yeah, it's there's definitely, obviously we've spoken about Tears of the Kingdom being the top one, but then there's like a second level of what I would say good to great, which is quite populated, and then another level below that, which is like good, solid games, and then obviously you've got the outliers that can appear anywhere. But yeah, it's I feel like we're going to get more volume of games this year, and there'll be opportunities to be more consistent. I don't know if we'll get too many 90s, other than we always get surprised by some random, like Norco this year in 2022. They got 90s. You never would have picked that in a month of Sundays, would you? It's just not. Chained Echo, Freshly Frosted, Dwarf Fortress. Like, you just wouldn't have picked them. There's not anywhere on anyone's radar. But we had God of War and Elden Ring, which were kind of the two mainstays. And really, you'd say Tears of the Kingdom and Starfield are your best bet at those higher ratings. If you're being cocky, you might say Final Fantasy 16, but you can never trust Square Enix to deliver. Well, I think that is it, gentlemen. The draft is in the books. The wheels are now in motion. If I've made an admin or a clerical error somewhere, unfortunately, it will stand. I have to maintain that that's always a risk of allowing me to organise it. I could have made an error somewhere. But for all intents and purposes, we are off to the races for the Fantasy Gaming League 2023. Logan, any last words before we depart? It's your first shot at this coveted championship.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really interesting one this year. I think, when you go through these and you listen to them, you think, how's that got on there? And there's not really a lot of that. I think, we've both got a game each. I'm not sure about Homeland, and obviously Parky's going to have to do something with Baldur's Gate. But beyond that, it feels like it should be, at least at this point, a really close competition. It might come down to, as we've said before, like, making good transfers, I think.
Yeah, that's always one of the tipping points usually. Parky, you are the champion, so any final words from yourself?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a close year. Obviously, I think a lot of it's going to come down to how high into the 90s Zelda goes.
Right.
But also, I mean, Hogwarts, Is it going to be 80s or is it going to be high 80s? Spider-Man could be high 80s. You just don't know. And I think what you said earlier about it's kind of like it feels like it's going to be a year of just like good games rather than great games. Then transfers are going to be quite key if any potential gems pop up between now and December.
Yeah, I tend to agree with all of that. Anyway, thanks for joining me to go through this nonsense, you two. It's appreciated that you gave up your time to do this. The FGL is off and going for 2023, and we'll occasionally be checking in on the main podcast as to what's happening in terms of scores rolling in and transfers. So make sure you subscribe to the feed so you can keep up to date with everything there. But there's nothing more for us to say here other than thanks for your time and ta-da.
This was a Dimp Digital production.